Hey everyone, Kevin here with an update for you on the next round of stimulus checks, the market, Jerome Powell. We've got predictions, we've got interviews, we've got a lot of things to cover today. Let's get right into it. So first things first, we know that the new HEROES Act passed the House on Friday. We're expecting it's going to have big issues when it goes on over to the Senate, which is mostly Republican controlled. In fact, we've all heard the quotes so far about this bill being dead on arrival, about Trump wanting to veto it, but I want to focus a little bit on the positive. And that's when we remove the political filter. You know, kind of how Republicans, they kind of have to talk through the political filter of like, oh, this bill's dead. And Democrats are like, this bill's perfect. It's all through that political lens of fighting when we know there's going to be a middle ground. Well, I listened to an interview this morning from Gary Cohn. He's the former National Economic Council advisor to the White House, which is like a crazy long title, but basically, if you know the guy Larry Kudlow, he goes on TV and talks about what Trump's thinking. Yeah, this is the guy that had Larry's job before he resigned. A lot of drama around that with China tariffs and all this stuff. Basically, this is a dude who used to work in the White House for Trump. And what's fascinating is when you stop working in the White House, you can kind of take your political filter off. And you can kind of say what you really think because you're not worried about getting fired. And that works for both sides, you know? Like, even if you're a Democrat, you don't want to say something as a Democrat that's maybe what you truly feel, but it's kind of anti-potentially your, president's cabinet. So, you want to have a cohesive message when you're in the White House, and this makes sense. So anyway, this guy who does not work in the White House anymore, but used to work under Trump, says that he agrees with 50% of the bill. He thinks 50% of the bill is actually very good, and that so far Congress has helped small businesses, big businesses have been helped, but now it's time to help state leaders and the other governments, local governments. He didn't specifically mention stimulus checks, but he also didn't rule out stimulus checks, which is very common. The interesting thing about this, though, is it shows us that probably behind everybody's political filter, the Republicans and the Democrats, most of this bill is probably going to pass. And that's a really good sign, because if a former Republican that worked for the White House says, hey, 50% of it's great, and Republicans want to slide in liability protections and maybe remove some things regarding prisons and, potential undocumented workers getting checks, and now you have a bill that's 90 to 100% ready to go. So I'm optimistic about that, and I thought it was interesting to see somebody remove that sort of political mask and reveal that. Like, yeah, more than half of this, or at least half of this, is actually really good. Now, obviously, a lot of the debate about the current stimulus package also comes down to reopening. We know that Democrats and Republicans are for reopening, but where there are large differences are about fears that we have over masks and the economy and the infection itself. And so the website 538 put together some really interesting graphics, and I wanted to share them with you, and I wanted to ask your opinion on these. So this first graph here suggests how worried are Americans about the infection. And what's actually interesting is the largest population is the somewhat worried group. That is, we actually don't have that extremely worried of a population. In fact, only about 1/3 of our population is actually very worried about this sort of outbreak, essentially. 30% is not very or not at all worried. And so we've really got these thirds going on where you've got 1/3 of people really worried, a third like, yeah, it's a problem, and another third like, it's not a big deal, maybe it's not even real, which I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, but I thought this was actually interesting because this shows you why there are protests and why there is so much enthusiasm to reopen the economy, which obviously reopening the economy is good. It's just the balance of safety. And so this is where you can really see why people are so pro reopening, because this chart here says, how worried are Americans about the economy? And look at this, much more consensus. Over half, 55.6% are very worried. And then you got 31% somewhat worried. So you've got almost 90% of people here who are very or somewhat worried, and only around 10, 11% who are not very worried at all. Those are big differences here. So this really shows that the virus is not worrying people as much as the actual economy is, which really actually potentially gives us a suggestion into the next November election in terms of, what the big play is going to to be. So getting the economy open back up is huge here. And in some sense, those graphs might actually be the reason we're not hearing that much talk about the next round of stimulus checks. It's much more popular for politicians right now to say, hey, let's focus on getting the economy opened up again. That's maybe why we're not hearing the word stimulus check out of politicians as much, which of course brings up the next debate, which I'm going to run a little poll. I'll put the link up here in one of these corners for the poll. I want to know what you think. Do you think we should wear masks in public? And here's a poll from 538. I'll show you in just a moment, but there is a lot of debate that either the masks aren't effective or that maybe you would self-infect yourself with a mask, or that the mask only protects other people, it doesn't protect you, so why wear it? And then on the other side, you have sort of the duty to protect others, or should we all be walking around with P100 respirators, the big things with the filters that do protect us? Curious to know what you think, but this is the latest poll here. According to this Morning Consult political poll, 71% of voters, including 58% of Republicans and 82% of Democrats, said that the president and vice president ought to wear face masks in public when they travel. This is a very interesting divide, though. Look at that, 58% of Republicans and 82% of Democrats. So you could really see the entire reopening debate isn't focused on stimulus checks. This is about a debate over the economy and people's rights and the demand. Do we have to wear masks when we go outside? But let's now tune in to see what Jerome Powell says, because this is a big one as well. But right before we talk about Jerome Powell, I just quickly want to show you this. This right here is if you open a Webull account and you're not sure where to invest your money, put it here. This is a Vanguard S&P 500 index fund. This goes back to, what does this go back to here? What do we got? 2011. You can see how VOO has grown since 2011. And if you zoom in up here, you really see, oh, there's the little Rona drop. You see that drop way up at the top over here? Yeah, so VOO might be a nice index fund for you to invest in. Very simple once you download the Webull app. Remember, you can get 2 free stocks if you open up a Webull account. Usually, I just recommend you start with the cash account. You could always add margin later on. That just means you're borrowing money. But, I mean, it's very simple here to buy. If you want to buy during hours, trading hours, you just bump open your quantity here. Let's buy 1 share for $262, sort of 1 slice of the entire economy for $262. Hit buy, and it's not available now because it's Sunday, but ordinarily, you'd be able to execute right away. And there you go. You'd own $262 of a Vanguard S&P 500 index fund. So in other words, if you want a really lazy way to build your wealth, open a Webull account, deposit $100, you get 2 free stocks, that's instant free money, and then throw your money over time into something as simple as a VOO index fund. Again, that's a Vanguard S&P 500 index fund, and there you go. You could watch your wealth in the long term grow, because that's a general trajectory of what we call the American train, right? That's Warren Buffett's mentality. Now let's talk about Jay Powell. He's the guy with the money printer. Jerome Powell, on an interview, a 60 Minutes interview, said that, look, you can't put the amount of pain our economy and us as people are feeling into words. However, he says this, in the long run and the medium run, you wouldn't want to bet against the United States economy. It could take a while, it could stretch through the end of next year, but you don't want to bet against America. And this is a really good way to reiterate that you should, if you're thinking about investing into the market, throw your money into America. America is exactly what I just showed you. The Vanguard S&P 500 index fund. This is a really good slice of America right here, and it's easy. You can automate it and make your life very, very simple. Now, in terms of a recovery, Jerome Powell actually believes that to fully recover, we're going to have a vaccine, because until everybody is 100% confident, everybody's not going to travel. Everybody's not going to go out to restaurants. So that vaccine is going to be very necessary, which we know that Donald Trump suggests the vaccine will be up and running by the end of 2020 and we'll have millions of vaccines. However, I have to say the FDA commissioner did go on the press to suggest that the vaccine is probably, aka realistically, a 2021 event. That is, it'll be before 2021 or within 2021 when there will be, quote, widespread availability of a reliable vaccine for COVID-19, which I think a lot of us are also on kind of the fence, like, well, yeah, we want to make sure there's a reliable vaccine. You take it first. No, we're not suggesting that, but I mean, obviously a lot of us, we want to know that there's something safe and reliable, and I don't see that happening in 2020. I think it'd be wonderful if it does happen, and I think I share Donald Trump's optimism, but I do more agree with the FDA chairperson who suggests, it's going to be 2021 before we have something safe and reliable and readily available for everyone. Now, in terms of the actual prediction, this week is going to be a very big tell. This week is the week where, well, hopefully you'll use that coupon code and join me before it expires in my awesome programs on the psychology of money or investing in real estate or do-it-yourself property management or being an amazing real estate agent. But otherwise, this week will be a big week for determining what the Senate does. There are indications and rumors that the Senate is going to wait until June before negotiating on this bill. I don't believe that. I really believe we're going to see some kind of new text from Republicans that we might be able to incorporate, kind of like an amendment. Maybe they'll do like a 20-page Republican amendment to the end of the HEROES Act. All right, these pages are deleted, and these are the new wordings or whatever that we're inserting. That would be such an easy way to solve this, and I think that's what we want to keep an eye out for, because right now there's a hot potato floating around, and nobody wants to be caught with the hot potato. The Democrats just threw the hot potato over to Republicans. Now they're holding the hot potato, and I don't think they're going to want to hold it for 2 weeks, because they're going to face a lot of pressure from states and the people. So get that hot potato tossed back, and let's see some action happen this week. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching. Get your quote for life insurance and sign up within 5 minutes. Easy to do. I ran a swipe up on Instagram, and many of you took advantage of enrolling in life insurance, finally lifting that burden off your back, because so many of us were like, oh, I know I need life insurance. I know I need it, but I just don't know. I mean, do I have to shop? Do I have to do this? Just get the one in the link below and then think about it. You could always change and cancel if you want to, but it's so easy to just knock it out on your phone and Apple Pay for it. So there you have it, folks. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.